Good morning. Well, we are going to get started here. We'll get rolling, and we're excited to get started for our very first ever candidate forum. So we're excited about this. So, good morning. My name is Pete Chittenden. I am the executive director for the Pullman Chamber of Commerce. I just first and foremost want to thank you all for taking the time this morning to come and be a part of this process. This is, of course, our government affairs kind of first initial opportunity to get our candidates in front of you, our community, to be able to start this season off right and get the facts and have some conversation and see where it takes us. So again, thank you for taking the time and coming. I want to thank two different organizations here. There's our sponsorship was Genuine Home Inspections, and Reed McPherson, just a wonderful human being that offered to sponsor this event, and so we're excited for that and that partnership. And also for the space. Fridays are always a very, very busy day. I'm sure most are for Schweitzer Engineering Laboratories, so we thank them. Thank you for the opportunity to be in this space and be able to hold our forum here. So, okay, a couple of things to cover. First and foremost, government affairs. I'd be remiss if I didn't poke and prod to get you to show up and come and be a part of the legislative process. So things are going to get intense here towards the end of the year into January, and now is the time to join, start learning about what we're doing. And if you are, of course, chamber members, you are open invitation to come. We would love to have you start fighting the good fight to see where is our community going, where do we want it to go, how do we work with our legislators to get there. So we open invitation. Please come 7 a.m. third Friday of every month starting in January. 7:30. Yes, 7. Don't come at 7. We won't be there. And it's right here at SEL in this room, the first door on your right when you come through the front here. So, but we'd love to see you, see where that takes us. So, last but not least, before I forget here, I believe, kind of eyeballing the room, there's nobody in the room that is not a member of the Pullman Chamber. But one of the things I'm going to ask, we are turning and burning. The chamber is changing. It's taking us into different directions. We're learning new things. We're connecting with new folks. And now is the time to take that leap of faith and jump in and join the Pullman Chamber of Commerce. So tell your friends, bring your friends, come challenge us, ask questions. We'd love to visit with you, and we'll grow together as a community. So wonderful. That being said, I will invite up our guest moderator, Mr. Paul Kimmel, and we'll get started here. Thank you.
Well, good morning, everyone, and thank you for coming. And just know this is getting videoed, and so it will be prominently displayed on the chamber website and marketed and so forth, so many of our chamber members will be able to see this today. I want to thank Tim Braun, too, also for putting all this together, and Mackenzie. With that, you were all provided guidelines around questions, timing, et cetera, et cetera. Christina here will be our timekeeper, and she'll give you a 1 minute, 30-second, 15-second stop kind of clue there. So keep an eye on that, and then also be watching for that as well. I may take the liberty of asking a follow-up question just for clarification. So just know we want to keep this very casual, informal. So just, don't worry. It's going to be fun. Sure, it really is. Just to remind you why we're all here today, and the mission of the Chamber is really to promote, advocate, and support businesses and the community of Pullman. We serve as a business advocacy group to help promote free enterprise and economic development. And our goal is to make Pullman a better place to live, work, and do business. So all of the questions today came from our chamber membership. Some of you asked why an 8 o'clock in the morning forum. Again, I think it was to really differentiate, not compete with other forums as well, but to also provide an opportunity for our small businesses, our hospitality businesses, to show up in the morning before they open their doors as well. So again, first time out of the chute, I think we're going to continue to get better and stronger. So I also want to give a shout out to Jeff Elliott, our AV and IT back here, wonderful. It's just a delight to work for them. I've had the pleasure for 20 plus years, so thank you, Jeff. So let's get started. First of all, we're going to introduce the candidates here. So again, no particular order, but we have Pullman City Council Ward 1, we have Brian McDonald and John Mark Mankey. Pullman City Council Ward 2, we have Dee Dee Labash, as well as Trevor Vance. And then City Council Ward 3, Tony Shumlas. Okay, yes, we're going to work on that one all day. And then John Castleman for that Ward 3 position. And then our 2 commissioner candidates, and thank you. Chad, I know it's a commission morning, so thanks for taking the time out. We did get a permission slip from Chairman Swanek for you to be here. So, and then Cody Finch on the end, so thank you all. So with that, we're going to start with opening statements and 2 minutes. So again, watch the timekeeper, but I will start with Dee Dee. So Dee Dee, 2 minutes. And we've got microphones that we're going to need to pass around a little bit, but should work for you.
Okay.
Yep, perfect.
So I'm Dee Dee Labash, and I have been in this community for about 4 years now. I've completely fallen in love with it. It's not like anywhere else I've lived. I've always been in Washington, but it's, and so I'm here to stay. I love my boyfriend here, and while I've been here, I've watched our transit system decline. We did just get the 3 new buses, which is awesome, but we don't have new drivers, and it's something that I hear from both students and just, SEL employees is, I guess, the second largest employer here, so mostly those 2 groups, but everyone. And then the next thing that I want to focus on is my ward is the furthest from the grocery stores and food pantries, or the food pantry. And so I think either a mobile pantry or mini pantries would be a great thing to implement to increase food accessibility. And then thirdly, I think that we have a bit of a housing crisis here, and I would like the City Council to work with the tenants union and address that. Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Dee Dee. Okay, Tawny.
Is it on? Sorry, I'm already kind of loud. I am the only family here whose income is derived 100% from a small business here on the Palouse. I feel very strongly that I am the small business candidate. I got in the race because I believe Pullman can do more and should do more for small business and tech startup to help really create a vibrant economy here on the Palouse. I think that more businesses will mean more houses, will mean more shopping, which will mean more tax revenue, and it's a big circle which does nothing but make Pullman better. That's why I'm here. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tony. Brian.
All right, I came to Pullman a little bit over 30 years ago to go to school. And to be honest, when I came to Pullman, I didn't love it. But luckily, my wife had 18 more months of school, and my professors all said, go to SEL, get a job there. And I listened to them, and I came. And by the time my wife graduated, I realized all the great things about Pullman. We have great outdoors. There's no traffic. The schools are amazing. And you have like a lot of the benefits of a small town, plus some of the amenities of a big city because of what the university brings in. And so I've raised my family here. And in fact, my youngest just recently graduated from WSU, and we got our first grandkid who's also in the area. So another reason to just absolutely love being and staying in Pullman. So what I really want to do is lean into what's strong about Pullman, lean in with the companies that we have, with the university, and building strong partnerships across all of those things. Like, we're going to be stronger together. And I don't have a lot of city government experience, but I do have a lot of experience growing my career at SEL. I'm a senior leader here and been involved in politics from a number of different ways. My wife is a service manager at the local bike shop downtown and has been a part of that and was commercial real estate before that. So I've got a broad set of experience, and I'm excited to help Pullman.
Thank you, Brian. John Mark.
Just wanted to make sure it works. Forgive me, I did write kind of a script because I know most folks here are business-oriented, and I thought I'd introduce you to first my father, who attended WSU for his business degree in the late 1960s. He took a job working as a night manager at Finch's Grocery, of all places. Many years later, he took that knowledge and skill set gained to open and run a small chain of neighborhood grocery stores in Tacoma. I grew up watching him work and learning firsthand the lessons only family members of small local business owners can truly understand. Hard work, family time sacrificed, early mornings, long days, late nights, all that. As a child, I'd visit for the summer. I'd often accompany him to one of the stores to stock and face the shelves. As a preteen, I was shown how to set up and count down tills for the day. And a day after my driver's test and receiving my license, he sent me to do the daily deposits all by myself for the first time. I learned what could be sacrificed in the pursuit of success, missing the start of family holiday celebrations because the store was open to cater to the inevitable crowd of latecomers who needed that extra can of whatever they forgot to buy, making us literally late for dinner, but it was worth it. And honestly, like many high schoolers who grew up in Pullman, I used what I learned there working for my father to obtain my first real job working at, you guessed it, Dismore's. Since then, I've gone to run radio stations with budgets in the millions of dollars and small businesses with budgets literally starting in the negative. Currently, I own a voiceover and audio production business catering to clients ranging from small to local to large interests with a worldwide presence. As someone who works directly with one of the few local family-owned radio groups left in the world, I continue to both see and experience myself some of the difficulties faced by local business owners. Coming from this fairly distinctive point of view and by continuing my open door policy to meet with and ask questions of local business owners, I'm ready to continue to help make Pullman a better place to live, work, and do business. And if you're a PHS fan and you listen to them on the radio, you now know advertising works.
Thank you, John Mark. Is it safe to say you have a face made for radio?
It is absolutely safe.
Okay. Just want to clear that up. John Castleman.
Hello, my name is John Castleman. I was born and raised here in Pullman, Washington. Went to Pullman High School, went to Washington State University, ran for the Cougs track and field team, and then moved away for over 10 years. And I went to different spots around Washington State, big cities, lived in Seattle, Bellingham, and small towns, Mansfield, Washington, 300 people. So I've seen the scope and learned a lot about Washington State throughout that journey. And then decided to move back. And I think that's what we want to see too. So many Pullmanites, kids growing up here, Washington State University students, so much talent, energy. We want them to come back and build this community better. So the things that I'd like to focus on, I've really enjoyed this campaign. It's talking to people and learning things. And what I've been learning is that business is the number one thing on most people's minds that I talk to. And I think the way we improve that, I don't think city can command or control. Instead, it's creating a better environment in which to do business. So we need to make the environment, make the ecosystem stronger. I think Pullman I think we need to lean into the great partnership that we have and have always had with WSU, although there's been ups and downs that time. I think we can't let that go. And I think Pullman needs to take the lead and promote itself on the things it's really good at. Our parks and trail system, our sports. And I talk to folks about, when I hear about what brings folks to Pullman, that's often it. We compare ourselves to Moscow oftentimes in a negative way. But when I talk to Muscovites, they're coming here for sports. They're coming here for school and education. So I think we need to lean into those things as a community. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Trevor Vance.
Good morning. My name is Trevor Vance. I'm running for Pullman City Council, Ward 2. I've lived in Pullman for 10 years. I came here first as a student at WSU, and now I'm a project manager here at SEL. Pullman's a place that I've grown, I've built a community, and I'm also committed to making change. I believe deeply in servant leadership, and over the years I've volunteered with nonprofits, theaters, food banks, and from supply drives, coordinating volunteers, and working behind the scenes. I know, I've seen and I know how much good can come when we support one another, and I think city government should reflect the same. It should be grounded in empathy, accountability, and action. In my professional work, delivering results on time, within a budget, through collaboration, and with good communication isn't the exception, but it's the standard. And I want to bring that same approach to City Council. I want to help expand small businesses downtown, grow the economy, and strengthen connections between neighborhoods, nonprofits, WSU, and local industry. I think that together we can build a Pullman that works for everyone, and I'd be honored to earn your support.
Thank you, Trevor. Cody Finch.
Hi, I'm Cody Finch, and I'm running for Whitman County Commissioner Position 3. And I'm a lifelong resident of the Pullman and surrounding areas, 5th generation farmer and rancher. I got into this race with an interest of politics, and the more I've learned through the appointment process in this is just how much help businesses and the community needs and is looking for change. My family ran a grocery store in downtown Pullman for decades, and then I ran a construction business here, and now dealing with just cattle, but the economic environment in Pullman is not what it once was, and I think that we need to use our strengths, and we don't need to compare ourselves to across the border. We just need to make it the best possible business environment that it can be here. And I think a county commissioner should be pushing back on some state issues. I think they should be the loudest vocal advocate for all of our constituents, businesses included, and I think there's a lot that can be done, within the budget and our constraints to help local businesses. And ultimately, my motivation for running is that I want Pullman and Whitman County to be a place that my kids will continue to call home. So I'm in this because I care, and thank you.
Thanks, Cody. Chad.
Chad Wetzel, and I've been in Whitman County now for a little over 30 years. Grew up in Western Washington. I've had a lot of different opportunities in this area. I've been a wildland firefighter for several years, and I got to travel the whole nation. And the best feeling I've ever had is crossing back into Whitman County. You know you're home. This is where I want to be. This is where my family is. My daughter's had several opportunities to go to other states and work, and again, she loves coming home. So I think for me, besides just loving being here, the volunteer stuff that we've done, I've been a volunteer firefighter for well over 20 years, 4-H and 4-H Council, been a member of Whitman County Cattlemen's Association and Washington State Cattlemen's Association for years. By trade, I'm a horseshoer, so I've gotten to be able to travel all of Whitman County and understand the differences between every area here. Pullman is obviously our big economic driver in this town, or in this county, and the county needs to support Whitman County in doing those things, or support Pullman in those things. I think we need to have a little bit better communications and cooperation. As a commissioner, though, Whitman County, the county itself, really has a very small role. We can't be telling Pullman what they're going to do. We just have to be able to support them and use their ideas. And the open communications there will help build our businesses. We need to exploit what makes Pullman and Whitman County great, and not focus so much on some of the other outside challenges that we can't really affect.
Thank you, Chad. Okay, this next question, again, we're going to start with a softball question. Is for council. And so I'll kind of start with somebody and then kind of move it down. This has to do with Project Downtown Pullman. And take up to 2 minutes, but if you can be more brief, that's perfectly fine. The final report on the project to rebuild and revitalize Main Street was presented to council this past June. Roughly about a $12+ million project was not without some fits and starts. Impacts to downtown businesses and a number of budget shortfalls, as you all know. Now completed, new water, sewer, stormwater, roadway surface, sidewalks, and streetscapes. The project was probably one of the city's largest public works project in many years. It was also not without some controversy, communication outreach, cost, etc. But I hope we can all agree the downtown Pullman looks quite nice today. So I want to get your thoughts and perspectives as council candidates. What do you think went right, went wrong, and what might you have done differently? And then kind of share your vision for downtown Pullman for the next 5 or 10 years. And Tawny, I'm going to start with you, just because in your website you talk about you are all about downtown biz and vote downtown. So if I could start with you.
Great. Well, I love Project Downtown. I was on board from day one. The thing that I think went wrong, the big thing that I think went wrong, is that Welshcomer and the city did not talk to the downtown businesses in phase one when they were trying to make decisions about what our landscapes were going to look like and what was going to happen. And it was really unfair to us to not have input into our front yards. That was what went wrong. I really appreciate Apollo. I appreciated the city of Pullman for following through on that money being spent, and I'm very excited about how it looks. I hope you see my social media. I love posting pictures of it. I would like to fill all those empty spaces downtown. I think we have to do that. That has a lot of different challenges because not all those buildings are owned by people that want to do something with them. So it's going to take, kind of a soft approach. And then a lot of different groups and organizations working together to get them filled. I would love to see things like a theater. I would also love to see some space being utilized for tech startups. I would love to see, retail isn't what it used to be. People don't just go somewhere to shop. So I'm not saying just retail for the sake of retail, but I'd like to see experiences being offered with retail in some of those places. There's nothing wrong with having law offices or apartments on the second floor. In fact, that will help the people that own those buildings get an income. So really, I'd love to see a mixed-use space that just is very vibrant. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tony. I thought you'd have an opinion. So, very good. Brian McDonald.
Yeah, so definitely the timing was rough for downtown, right? It was like right on the heels of the pandemic. Those companies downtown, they really struggled through that. And then it was unfortunate timing, but kudos to all those businesses that made it through it and showed a lot of grit making that happen. I've heard great things about the construction company as well, and I totally agree that it does look fantastic downtown. I agree with Tawny that we need to find creative ways to fill up the places downtown. We need to make it easier to start a business, easier to run a business. I totally agree with what Chad said earlier about figuring out how to push back and on the state and find our own ways. And I think some of that's also how we interpret the state laws and the local laws and making sure we're looking at the most favorable ways to support businesses. And I think that's a really critical piece that we can do a better job as a city in. And other than that, I think just making sure that we continue to support downtown, and I think that's whether you're a local business owner or whether you're someone who shops at the local businesses and supports downtown. So.
Thank you, Brian. John Mark.
Well, as far as what went right, we have a beautiful new downtown Pullman. Anybody who was attending any event downtown, be it the Lentil Festival or the parade, for example, or the Saturday's event, the To Go and Gather, it's a beautiful place to go and hang out now. I've seen more activity in downtown Pullman recently than I believe I've seen in the past several years. What went wrong? It should have been sold as a beautification project, an improvement project, instead of an infrastructure project. Infrastructure that sounds kind of ugly. It doesn't have the same ring. And when you're talking about something like this, you need to actually sell it to people, because otherwise people will naturally turn against it, especially if it runs over budget or runs too long, for example. Communication with business owners and residents, both. I agree with Tawny. There wasn't enough communication about what was going on. They did try, but they did not succeed. As far as the next 10 years, filling the empty spaces downtown, the vacancies, the city should continue to explore ways to discourage vacancy and encourage owners to find paying tenants in lieu of choosing, for example, tax write-offs whenever possible. Downtown Pullman can be a vibrant place as it once was. Like I said, addressing vacancies, encouraging new businesses and startups, and of course, promotion of the city. That can do wonders, and we need to find ways to bring not just new businesses, but keep people who are innovators here, people who are coming up with new ideas and concepts, which are being developed all the time, both here at SEL, at WSU, and various other places in the city, and keep them here, keep them from relocating, and make it as easy as possible for people to be here, new arrivals to find a place to live, a place to do their work, exciting, fun things to do, and generally find their way around.
Thank you, John Mark. Trevor, you mentioned downtown vibrancy on your website, so
Yeah, absolutely.
let's talk about downtown.
Yeah. So I think the project itself was, like many of the other candidates have said, much needed and important to our downtown. And it is great, being downtown, driving through downtown. It's definitely much improved. I think that filling the empty storefronts is very important for Pullman, especially from an economic standpoint. Being able to bring that revenue in is incredibly important. I think one thing that city could do is help encourage, kind of gathering places and businesses downtown, somewhere that people can come together and spend time and engage in the community, spend their money. I think that Pullman can definitely grow in an area of communication and gathering input from businesses and from the community, and using that as a way to kind of further their projects and take input.
Thanks, Trevor. Didi.
Yeah, so just to kind of parrot what everyone else is saying, there wasn't enough communication with small businesses, but now that the construction is over for the actual main strip of downtown, I think the focus really is on getting new small businesses and supporting our existing businesses in downtown. I can never stress enough how important third space is and a place to hang out is, and yeah, Pullman needs that outside of house parties in Greek Row.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, I appreciate the third space concept too. It really works well. And John, our local Pullman kid, you've seen downtown sort of go through a number of changes.
Yeah, I remember crazy days and Ken Vogel and his Nesbitt soda out front. We loved going downtown as kids. And speaking of things that went well, I'll start there first. I think the outcome, like the others have said, was great. I was biking with my family through downtown, and the lights, just the lights, it was magic. I hear Pete talking about, and Jill Bielenberg talking about bringing back the magic of Pullman. So I think the built space is really important to that. We need to make it more inviting downtown. As far as what the city did not do as well, I think the communications were eventually good. A lot of great videos out there, but like Tanya was saying early on, I don't think it was strong enough in terms of letting citizens and business owners know when is the right time to comment, when can I give input, and gathering that general input. It didn't have to be specific input. We didn't have to have specific plans, but you can get general sentiment. I think to actually have a different take than John Mark, I think selling a $12 million thing as a beautification project, I don't know that you'd get the same amount of support versus, hey, we need to fix these pipes that are going to start failing, like we saw in Lewiston, right? They're dealing with that. They're failing mains, and that's going to cost even more money. So I think billing it as an infrastructure project would have been the right choice, or going harder into that. As far as what I would do, one other thing I think the city that just kind of as a show did wrong was right after that construction project finished up was like, hey, we're going to increase fees for the right-of-way spaces out front. I think some of those symbolic gestures weren't quite right. As far as what I do, more focus on physical spaces. I think a playground downtown would be fantastic. I think we need to get more anchor businesses downtown. I think a co-op downtown. Some of those things would start anchoring and just inherently bringing more people in who they're going to stay and spend more time downtown. Is that it? Okay, thank you very much.
Good, thanks, John. Great answers, by the way, everybody. Thank you. This next question again. Okay.
So I forgot to mention in my opening statement that I was a commercial project manager at WSU for large-scale government contracts. And for me, looking at that project, it started out very slow, sounded like poor communication to the businesses. But what I would have liked to seen was a kind of a big initial push instead of the potholing, digging here, digging there, kind of exploratory. I think when you're holding that many businesses to okay, here's our timeline, to not really get after it, and then at the end to drag that project out and say, just hold on to this timeline, and then to move that ball, I don't think that was fair. So it drove me crazy from a former project manager perspective, and then to relate it to the county, in the end with the county economic development funds that went to that. A suitable use for those funds, but I think those funds would be better directed into, a chamber, a downtown association, something that will actually push for increased tax revenue and not what looked like bailing out the city in the end for expenditures. So, thank you.
Chad, do you know how much the 09 funds was provided to the city?
Say that again?
What amount of the .09 funds was provided to the city? Is it 300,000?
I think they asked for 400 and maybe got half that.
Half that? Okay. Yeah, I can't remember. Okay. Good, thanks. Chad, anything?
Just real quick, I'm probably one of the more unique people here is that I don't live in city Pullman. I live outside the city limits. But I remember the Colfax project, and we remember all the problems that Colfax had and all the things that surprises they came up with. And I think, again, it goes back to communication early on. And a lot of those problems could have been avoided had they learned from Colfax the things that went wrong and tried to look ahead to see those. There were several companies that turned the job down because they just knew the timeline was unrealistic on what they wanted. So I think more communication would have really helped that project a ton. Now that it's done, moving forward, it's a great place for people that enjoy walking downtown, and people do seem to enjoy it. So let's move it forward and keep growing it. For me personally, I have a vehicle that doesn't park in downtown. I don't own small rigs, so I get a walk a long ways if I want to be downtown. That's my choice, but otherwise they've done a great job.
Good. Thanks, Chad. Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Just real quick, I want to be clear, when I mentioned that infrastructure was an ugly word, that doesn't mean it's a dirty word. I am very, very supportive of infrastructure projects. I just think that beautification with an underlying infrastructure selling point would have probably been more successful.
Okay, point well taken. Thank you. This next question, again, it's directed at council, but Chad, Cody, feel free to chime in. And as a former elected official, you know, we're talking finances and government transparency here. You always want to do the math. Local government budgets year to year tend to be somewhat casual. We tend to be somewhat casual about debt, and even more so about taking on long-term maintenance obligations. As someone put it, when we don't hold ourselves to a rigorous financial approach, we tend to descend into dogmatic thinking and start relying on our convenient urges instead of prudence. I follow Strong Towns, and if you don't follow Strong Towns, I'd encourage you to. Just some really good insight. They write, cities are not collections of people serving the public balance sheet. Quite the opposite. The public balance sheet needs to serve its people. To ensure we're doing this, we have to keep score rigorously and obsessively. And again, the question is, the city of Pullman has historically been opaque about their assets and liabilities. We understand revenues being reduced by the loss of things like retail sales and some of the federal programming. What services do you think will need to be reduced to balance that budget? And then, if elected, what 3 steps would you take to put our city on a firmer financial footing? And how would you communicate with constituents regarding these choices and priorities on finances? And then finally, would you characterize yourself as fiscally conservative, moderate, spend where we need to spend, et cetera, and sort of prove how it will benefit? I'll start with Trevor, because Trevor, on your website, you also call for more fiscal responsibility. So go ahead and start. I know there were a lot of questions in there, but feel free to take a stab at any and all.
Yeah. So I think answering one of the questions that I pulled out of there, firmer financial footing, how do we provide that? I think bringing more and more businesses downtown so we have a larger base to kind of pull from and tax from is super important. I hate to encourage us to tax, but when we have more organizations, it's a smaller piece of everybody to contribute to for a larger pie. I definitely would say I'm fiscally conservative, and if we think from a financial standpoint of my own personal finances, I do know how to balance a checkbook and have my own finances in order, and an understanding of how to read P&L and all the kind of financial inputs that are important in a business. From a service reduction standpoint, or what services might we look at, I don't have a good, clear answer for you. I'd like to do some more research and kind of see. Those are just some of my thoughts in this kind of question. So.
What about communication? Again, budget. Very few people show up for a budget hearing.
Yeah.
So how do you get the word out?
Yeah, I think it ties back to having more communication with the community, with citizens, and make sure that people are aware that these meetings are happening. Come to them. They're your tax dollars. They're really important for you to be in attendance and know where your money is going. I think it's important for good, honest, clear transparency, especially when it comes to the finances of the city.
Thanks, Trevor. John Castleman, you talk about this as well on your website about transparency and accountability. So elaborate.
Yeah, I think transparency is vital. I'd say that for me, I like to view myself as kind of radically transparent. I had a great conversation with Jenny Kostroff, director of the 1912 Center, and she struck me as radically transparent. You want to see the books? You want to see the contract with the city of Moscow? Check it out. And I think I completely believe in that approach, because when you are transparent, when you're showing people what's at stake, what are the decisions being made, what's under the decisions, then you're going to get participation. I think so actually, to jump ahead of that last question, I would consider myself financially conservative. I've served on the board of a number of nonprofits, and I've seen too many nonprofits go away because of that lack of financial prudence. And so if we're going to serve our youth, if we're going to serve our low-income populations, unhoused populations, we need to be smart with our dollars. as we are giving, if that idea makes sense. So we need to make sure we're making best use of our dollars, even if that means paring things back down. So use that to lead into kind of what could we reduce. At first, for me, because I don't know the budget deeply enough, it would be more across the board reductions, and then we'll kind of hone in on what are the best opportunities. So, spoke with Chief Brashears, it's like, hey, we need a new police station because we don't have enough locker, we're running out of locker space for female officers. Fire department, same thing. Hey, our stations are dilapidated. We don't even have showers for women at Station 2. So, last thing I'd say is, it's similar to Trevor, bigger tax base means more, so more sales tax means more money for the city to help solve people's problems with.
Thanks, John. John Mark.
Well, starting with services to reduce, I believe that was the first part of the question. You have to remember that services in the city, they fall into a couple categories, at least for me. The critical, which is fire, police, protection, and infrastructure, for example. And then you have secondary funding, which includes parks and rec and other things of that nature. Now, nobody wants to eliminate parks or eliminate Parks and Rec programs. I got my start playing soccer at Pullman Parks and Rec, and I am proud to be the MC every year of the annual egg hunt for Parks and Rec. But when you look at things like that, look at things to cut, you have to consider the critical to be the very last thing you consider. And you have to look at things like maybe instead of three different baseball teams that they put together when they normally put together four, or cutting a number of classes down from 3 to 2. You have to consider doing things like that. And you also have to keep in mind that later on down the road, you may want to add those back in. With limited time, of course, letting the residents know everything that's going on in the city, that is very important. Transparency has always been important to me. Anybody who knows me from running for past positions knows that I am very passionate about being transparent and letting everybody know what's going on. Of course, there are some internal documents in the city that do have to remain, internal for obvious reasons, HR records, for example. But there is no other record that I can think of that would be, off the table. I am fiscally conservative within reason. I do know that you don't run a city like a business. You run it more like a kind of hybrid business nonprofit, and that's important to make sure that the residents get the value for their tax money that they're spending.
Good. Thanks, John Mark. Brian.
Yeah, so I have a lot of practice at SEL managing a budget of tens of millions of dollars for the department that I run. And I think that practice actually brings some great experience for the city. I think I would label myself as fiscally conservative and also creative. And I think at SEL, that's something that we're very passionate about. For several years, we used the word scrappy. It doesn't really translate that well, so we changed that to resourceful. And I think that is something that we're absolutely going to have to be great at doing in Pullman. I mentioned in my opening comments that we need to be creative in how we lean in on each other. There was something for the Parks Department where they came in and reported about a month ago at City Council that there were no rectangular fields anywhere on this side of town. And of course there's like 8. They just happen to be owned by the university. And so I think we really need to find ways to help each other out and to get the most out of the city and the place that we live. Whether we're here for school, whether we're here for business, whether we're residents, we need to figure out how to make Pullman good regardless and make our money stretch as best and as far as it can.
Thanks, Brian. Tony.
All right, thank you for the question. This question actually kind of gets to the heart of the theory of my case, which is that Pullman has not done a good job of creating a strong economic center. Pullman makes money through property tax and sales tax. And if you want to get that money, then you have to create the jobs. You have to make a place where those jobs can thrive, tech jobs, retail jobs, food and service. Then those people can hopefully get into housing. That housing will then drive the property taxes. This is how they make money. So yes, I'm fiscally conservative, but the more important part of that is how do we go out and get more money for the city so that we can continue to have the services that we have. And as far as being like transparent, that's something that I'm already trying to do. I'm trying to make sure that people can reach me across all my platforms or at Rico's. My campaign is really a campaign of the people because I've spent the last 25 years listening to people in Pullman and hear what their thoughts are. And I'm trying to bring that now to the next level. And then I want to be able to go back to those people in my role as a bartender and tell them what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, what we're doing, why we're doing it, and how it'll help make their life measurably better. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Dee Dee.
So I actually believe that public transportation and making the city walkable is a essential, not something to put on the like lower priority. And so that, in addition to just general services that I think the city needs to improve upon or stop depreciating. One example is when we had the gas main break and a lot of people were left without heat in their homes. And the city was like, well, we actually closed our place of refuge so they can go to the school. And relying on just WSU is not, I don't know, viable in the long run. So in that way, I guess I would say I'm like fiscally reasonable, a little less conservative than the rest here. But, yeah.
Thanks, Dee Dee. And Tony mentioned property taxes, so I want to pivot a little bit to our two commission candidates here. And historically, Whitman County's had a pretty conservative budget. You don't have the same sort of funding options that cities do, whether it's enterprise and fee-based kinds of things. So property taxes is a big deal. Recently, property tax assessment notices went out, and it seems that a number of property valuations increased considerably. And again, property values and taxes don't always run in sync, but there is that appearance at least. And I assume that the Board of Commissioners were starting to get some phone calls with concerned citizens, so much so that Commissioner Swanek penned a letter regarding trying to explain how the process worked and sort of the remedy for relief on valuations, et cetera. So again, maybe more of a philosophical, fiscal property taxes are a big deal, and you guys pay attention to them. So, Chet, I want to start with you.
So yeah, the valuations just went up. There's a lot of issues that go into this. Part of it has been historical issues. Our current assessor was handed property values that hadn't been raised in a long time. The state mandated they go up. The state wanted them to go up in 1 year. Our auditor fought it, said 3. The people wouldn't tolerate it going up that much in 1 year. And so she's bringing those up. And yes, most of the time the property values are usually about 80 to 85% of actual market value. As far as the remediation, there is the Board of, oh shoot, now I just lost it. What's that? Yeah, not the Board of Adjustment.
Equalization.
BOE, Board of
Equalization.
Thank you. And Whitman County is unique in that the commissioners are actually part of that board, and we do have to go through some serious training on that. The thing you have to remember is if you come in asking to have your property values adjusted because your neighbors are less than yours, it may not turn out in your favor. Theirs may be raised instead of lowered. There's a whole bunch of state laws that go into this. It's very interesting. Likewise, there are relief for like seniors and that sort of thing. But you also have to remember that every time you lower somebody else's property taxes, the pool of everybody else goes up. We're all interconnected. And then kind of back to the Pullman thing and the economics there, the county has some services in Pullman. We have district court and we have the Board of Health. And they help Pullman. The Board of Health is state funded, so those things aren't going away. That's more on the state's end of things.
Cody?
Yes. So the issue of taxes, that it's not a new issue for the county, and I would push back a little bit on you, Paul, that while we do operate on a limited budget that's gone up $16 million in the last 10 years, essentially doubling. And so the issue with their taxes is by holding market values down for 20 years and then being forced to catch up in 1 year, which property values are supposed to be assessed every year anyway, so that's really no excuse. But is that market values go up, levied amount should go down for the county to reach their budget. And what they did in trying to do that 3 years, and specifically in the first year, hitting Pullman businesses, so they're carrying the burden for the rest of the county. I mean, if you talk to any Pullman business owner, building owner, you know, our property taxes tripled or doubled. And when you're not expecting a hit like that as a small business, I mean, I think that's probably the straw that broke some of those camel backs. But I think it really goes back to accountability. This has been an issue in front of us forever, and while the commissioners don't oversee the assessor's office, they do control the budget, and they should be talking to them. What are you guys doing? Why are we so far behind? So it's significant to Pullman businesses. And
Thanks, Cody. And kind of along that theme, we're going to talk a little bit about economic competitiveness and growing tax base. Schweitzer Engineering Laboratories recently published their 2024 Index of Freedom, which highlights both economic and political freedoms and constraints in all 50 states. Things like government efficiency, regulatory freedom, and energy resiliency. Idaho ranked number 3 as far as more economically competitive, fewer regulations, et cetera. Washington landed at 35 in that study. It's a really well done look at kind of comparing state by state. As a border community and county, I think we all have seen firsthand some of the business competitive differences and challenges. So what's your stance on regulatory reform at the local level, whether it's the city or the county, reducing some of these burdens for businesses? Are there specific areas where you see opportunities to streamline processes? How can we in Pullman and Whitman County stay competitive, attract, retain, and expand our businesses and economy? And I provided you a handout here with the Economic Innovation Group. Again, it's sort of the state of the American workers. Gives you a little more perspective on some of the challenges, what the workforce is seeing. What are those push points, the challenges, whether it's the cost of goods and services, whether they're generated by a city or a county. In that, they talk about the affordability of goods and services as by far the biggest source of worry for American workers, and then the cost of products and services continue to be a top financial stressor to our American workforce, and I would suggest businesses too. So with that, Chad, I'm going to start with you. Talk a little bit about that economic competitiveness as a border county, and what can you do at the county level?
I think the biggest thing for Whitman County and Pullman too is we got to communicate between the county and the city a lot better than we have in the past. Those challenges are not going to go away. There are things we can control and things we can't control. What the state does, quite often we can't control. We can lobby and work our tail off to try to explain to them what's going on, but Olympia is a long ways away, and they don't necessarily, I hate to say it, necessarily care what's going on here. So the challenge becomes, what can we do? I believe that we really need to push the strengths of Pullman and Whitman County. We have a lot of great assets here. We have a wonderful environment to live in. We have just a great, the people of Whitman County are fantastic. We have good clean air, good water. We need to work on maintaining that water system and through the aquifer system, which we are through the Palouse Basin Aquifer Association, and maintain those systems. The county needs to make sure that we have roads, county roads that support Pullman, because this is our economic driver, and basically exploit what differentiates us from anything else, even Moscow or Latah County. And I think that when we do that, we have the ability to actually outperform our neighbors, even with the disadvantages of being in two separate states. So that's what I think we really should be doing, is focusing on our what's so great about Pullman, and just really drive that home to people.
Thanks, Chad. Cody?
Yeah, I think we're not, while we are unique, we're not alone. I'm sure Clarkston feels the same way. There's, some communities north of Spokane. I think a coalition of border communities to go to Washington and say, hey, we need exceptions for certain things. We can't compete on gas tax, for instance, and then, where was I going with that? What was the question again?
Economic competitiveness.
Economic competitiveness. Yeah, I think we can't look at it as that we are competing with Moscow. We have, the rules are what they are, and we need to do the best that we possibly can within those constraints. If we're going to live in a state that taxes us through the roof, well, that means there's more money out there that we should be asking for back to help our businesses and our community. And also, most of the compliance actually comes down to the local level. And if you're going to be strict on enforcement of issues that are not necessarily so clear, that maybe we can do a better job of helping people get through those rules, navigate those. Let's do this instead. Let's try this. I don't think the wall to get over is as big as we make it out to be. And we can also push for, let's get competitive with service industries, higher paying jobs, where retail might struggle. We can still thrive in kind of just those little outlier businesses. So, and we need to push for retail too, but we can do that smarter. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Cody. John Castleman.
All right, thank you. We always joke in Pullman that human capital, like students are our chief commodity. And we kind of say it in a joking way, but it's 100% true. That Pullman gives so much and takes so little, to Cody's point, right? Our people who are raised in Pullman, who go to WSU, are supported by your businesses. It's always been this way since Pullman was founded. And I agree that we need to assert ourselves more. I think that we need to partner again with WSU, with our businesses like SEL, and bring a little more clout to the table. We give so much. I think part of how we do that is focusing our priorities. I think the city did a good job of narrowing its legislative priorities. I think we could do better. When I see a priority on there, let's just support our nonprofits. It's like, well, yeah, of course we want to support our nonprofits. What's the goal? How do we do that? I thought, Carla Delira and Pat Wright both brought up great points about one of those priorities, which is more affordability for college tuition. And Pat had said, hey, did we consult with the students at WSU? And the answer was no, we got to get going on this. We don't have time. It's like, how can we not consult our chief partners in this, or the people we're trying to help? So I think communication is vital. And if we need to take a little pause for some of those items, we should. And then lastly, when I talk to business owners, one of the concern, I don't hear back like, oh, this regulation's killing me. It's working with the city. So again, how are we doing business and how are we serving our businesses as humans and partners, I think that's going to be key. And then lastly, I think, in talking with Sean Wells prior to his hire as city administrator, I had asked for a commitment that we would work to reduce regulation in city ordinance. And the city's starting to take some of those steps too, so I applauded that.
Thank you, John. Dee Dee.
Yeah, so, oh, sorry. My mind just went blank. I think one of our big economic edges is that we're actually in Washington and that we do have so much more, I think it was Cody or Chad was saying, support from the state back from those taxes that we're paying in. I think what that ends up looking like is SEL is in Washington, not Idaho. And I know I talk to people all the time who are like, yeah, Moscow's cool, but I don't want to live in Idaho. And so I feel like it actually is almost a bit of a selling point in its own economic edge. And I think that it's turned into things like a thriving business like this and can continue to start new tech startups like this. Yeah.
Thank you. Trevor.
Thank you. I think more and more, and I definitely feel this, Pullman, it definitely feels a little bit like a suburb of Moscow, right? We go there for cheaper gas and cheaper groceries, movies, home improvement. I kind of joke, I'm going to do all those on Saturday and get my home work done on Sunday. And I think a lot of us feel that we just kind of work and live here. And we need to look into really what incentives that we can bring to draw businesses into Pullman. I think we often forget that we are very closely tied to WSU, and when they're successful, Pullman is as well. And what policies can we look at that bring more to Pullman, whether that's tourism, visitors, or students? I think we need to also work on working with experts that know this well, and what we can do to bring more to Pullman, have an action plan for how we can do that, and in a timetable that is beneficial to us all.
Thanks, Trevor. John Mark.
Well, in talking with local business owners, the biggest single issue they come up with driving a business exodus, not just downtown, but from Pullman in general, is the high overhead of doing business when compared to nearby cities outside Washington, notably Moscow. Business owners I've talked to mentioned specifically Washington State's B&O taxes, high rent, the cost of labor. Those are the major concerns, although not the only challenges. While two of those specific items are not something the city council members can address directly, obviously, finding ways to mitigate those issues as much as possible is, at the local level, is very paramount. City must work towards creating conditions in which the businesses can thrive by reducing or revising burdensome regulations. There are a lot of regulations out there that need to be revisited, as well as doing more events like To Go and Gather, like this past Saturday, and supporting groups such as the Chamber of Commerce, who drive community and outside interest with events like First Down Friday and the soon-to-come Holiday Fest, and which in turn drive foot traffic into local downtown businesses, and DPA, who feature grants, tax credits, and an online toolkit for small businesses. In fact, John asked one of the questions, how can businesses get money back from Olympia? DPA has a wonderful program where basically you donate $1,000 to them for every $1,000. Next year you get a $750 tax credit on your B&O taxes, and a $250 out-of-pocket donation remains, which you can actually claim as a taxable donation. So you give them $1,000 once you sign up for the program, and you get all that money back basically as tax credits. It's a great way to keep the money local, keep it here, let them do their work, and have businesses support our local area and the city of Pullman.
And that's due to the fact that Pullman is a Main Street community now, then they can take advantage of that.
Correct.
Tax credit
It is,
program.
if any business owners want the information, you can contact Bobby Ryder, downtown Pullman, or if you want this flyer, I have a couple myself, so I'd be happy to give it to you.
Thank you, John Mark. Brian.
So living in a border town definitely does pose some challenges, but I think sometimes we let it get a little bit too much into our own heads. The reality is a starting job at Home Depot is $17 in Moscow. A house in Pullman in Moscow is marginally cheaper than it is in Pullman. I agree with the comments that some of the others have made that we need to be more resourceful about taking advantage of the programs that are available. We are paying for them, whether we wanted to or not. But other than that, I think the other big things are making sure that we are interpreting the laws in ways where the city is putting on the hat of the local businesses, of the local people that live here, and optimizing for our community. And that means interpreting things in a way that's going to be friendly to those businesses, friendly to the community. And I think we could do a lot better job of that. I think the other thing, I think maybe Cody mentioned this, is we also need to make sure that Pullman is a unique and special place, and a place that people want and need to do business. The reality is that there's new businesses that are starting up in much more expensive places than Pullman, with much more regulatory burden than Pullman. We need to make sure that we're building a community where people want and need to start a business and aren't tempted by Moscow or by any other city or state.
Thank you, Brian. Tony.
Wonderful. We were the powerhouse community over the last century, and we can be that again. We have to stop comparing ourselves to Moscow. We're not Moscow. We're never going to be Moscow. We have different situations around us. And one of the things that we need to do at the city level is to start making it easier for new businesses and tech startups. And that tech startup especially, we can be working with WSU. We can be providing them a space with low or no rent where they can come down and see if their ideas will work. And then hopefully we've provided them a good space where then they can start their family here and make those things. So it doesn't have to look like Moscow. And the city can create a better environment for that sort of stuff, which I think absolutely needs to happen. So we really need to be looking for opportunities. We need to be looking to flip the script. And one of the things that I think that city council members or people in power, I guess, in Pullman need to be doing is they need to be get caught shopping locally, get caught eating locally, get caught buying gas locally, especially that gas part, because that's how we're fixing our roads in Washington State. Don't go to Moscow. So I think that we could do a better job, all of us, promoting our town just through our little everyday actions. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. And we do have some great partners for the city to work with, like SBDC. I see Juan here. I see Erica from SWEDA here. We have our chamber as our advocate as well, the Port of Whitman, a number, and DPA for sure. So, and again, just to remind you, there was a second question, it's similar, but you'll get copies of all these questions as we continue on. I want to talk, just be a short response to this one, still on business regulation theme. I want to talk about short-term rentals. Not a controversial subject, is it? The city recently went through an extensive zoning code update. Part of this work included adoption of some restrictions and regulations on short-term rentals. While not unanimous, the council did approve these new codes. At last week's council meeting, a robust discussion ensued over enforcement and process. One councilman, Councilman Weller, argued that there is not a consensus when it comes to short-term rental issue. It now appears the council wants to review and kind of take a look at those codes again, maybe consider a different path forward. So thoughts, perspectives, and what would you like to see happen? Again, we have a number of short-term rental opportunities that does have a business impact. And then follow-up, if you could change one thing in our zoning code, what would it be and why? So again, short-term rentals, and then if there was something in zoning code that you'd like to change, and our commissioner candidates can weigh in as well too. But I'll start with Brian. Short-term rentals, and then one thing you'd like to change in zoning code.
Me? Okay, so I think short-term rentals is a prime example of a place where we need to be interpreting the laws and figuring out how to optimize. One, know what kind of community we are. We are a college town. People are not buying a house so that they can turn it into a short-term rental because of 6 football games and a graduation and the day that students move in. I mean, that's not happening. What is happening is people are trying to find a place to stay for a football game, because like if you looked on Expedia last night, most of the hotels are sold out, and those that aren't are going for $350 to $650. And when we figure out how to have people stay in Pullman, they're not only going to go to the game, they're going to come downtown. They're going to support the local businesses. They might even buy gas here. And
then maybe one thing on zoning code change. Yeah, we're trying to be a little briefer here, because we're going to run out of time.
Okay. I think that one's a great one to start with, is just looking at the short-term rentals. And again, with the interpretation, whether it's short-term rentals or others, on how do we optimize for Pullman.
Great, thanks, Brian. Trevor.
Yeah, thank you. And full disclosure, in being transparent, I do have a short-term rental. I have an Airbnb in my basement of my home that I
So
put.
that makes you a subject matter expert then, right?
Yeah, I definitely have been vocal about it as well. I think I resonate a lot with what Brian just said. They are an overall benefit to our economy, and they do bring in lodging taxes that are remitted on the operator's behalf to the city and to the county. And most people that are doing them, they're not trying to make a fortune. They're just trying to use it as a way to make ends meet, myself included, right? We use it just to pay the bills. We're not making thousands of dollars. And people do spend money in Pullman when they stay in Airbnbs here in town. I think one of the things that I would like to see change in the zoning update, especially as it potentially goes back to Planning Commission, is a definition of what constitutes a short-term rental. If we look at in 17109 versus the RCW itself, there is a discrepancy in the PCC 17109. A short-term rental is a head and a bed for a night. It doesn't matter if the owner lives in it and it's owner occupied, whereas there is a difference in the RCW. So that actually is a big difference, and it kind of encapsulates everything on Airbnb, whereas if it was more in line with the state, it would be more about 10% of current listings.
So a little follow-up here. Given that you have a short-term rental, what about the neighbors? I mean, that's a big concern.
Sure.
So how do you deal with that?
In what regard?
Concerns about noise, traffic, an extra car or two on the street in front of your house.
Yeah. So we haven't had anything like that personally. If we look at kind of complaints that have been kind of out there, right? We've had maybe one in the last however many years, 8 years, 9 years. We talk with our neighbors. We have good relationships with them, and we let them know like, hey, we have this thing that we are doing, and I think communication is a big key. And we are lucky. We've had great experiences. No parties. We have rules that say like, hey, no parties, and like quiet hours are from this time to this time, and it's been a good experience, right? And I think platforms have a good way of having that regulation kind of built into it. If I have a bad experience for a guest, I'm going to get dinged on a review, and people are maybe going to be less likely to stay with me.
Okay, thanks. And we don't rent to Huskies, or we double
Sorry?
the rent? We don't rent to Huskies, or we double the rate?
For
You dub.
Oh,
Yeah.
sure, yeah, we'll definitely
Sorry.
double it.
Okay,
Yeah.
caught you there. All right. John Mark.
Well, I am a supporter of short-term rentals. What drives me kind of crazy is the fact that we have so much code written about short-term rentals. Now, some of it is required, but when you sign up to be, correct me if I'm wrong, Trevor, when you sign up to be a short-term rental, somebody who's offering a short-term rental, you have a code of conduct, you have specific rules you have to follow, whether it's VRBO or whatever. You have to follow that code of conduct. You have to follow those rules. And if you don't, not only do you get dinged, but you can actually get it pulled from the site. They do a very good job of policing that. The state also has regulations for short-term rentals. The city having as much regulation on short-term rentals, especially reading through some of it, it seems like a little bit of overkill. Now, some of it, like parking regulations and such, having enough parking available, which is what sparked this whole controversy in the first place, as I understand, that is very important. But really, that continues to need to be looked at because there are many things that could still be changed, many improvements that could be made. I know, Trevor, you actually wrote up a fantastic piece as a short-term rental owner of ideas we could do that aligned with the state laws and such, state code. But as far as short-term rentals, I think, yes, we need to empower those with short-term rentals just like we would any other business owner because they do bring in dollars to the city. They are just like any other small business owner, and they need our support just like any other small business owner.
What about a zoning change, zoning
Sorry?
code change?
Oh, yeah, I was getting to that. As far as zoning changes, I know Tani is a big fan of eliminating vacancies downtown. She's been talking to the mayor of Medical Lake. I've reached out to a couple people on the council in College Place, both of which have vacancy ordinances on their books, just as kind of a guideline. And, that's something that I would like to really concentrate on. I don't want to hurt any of the people who own the businesses downtown or people who have vacant businesses, but encourage them, find ways to, as I said before, find paying tenants in lieu of choosing to take tax write-offs whenever possible. Make sure that they are holding on to that business for the right reason, not because they want sky-high rentals that are probably never going to happen, or they're hoping for a windfall buyer to come out of nowhere and give them millions of dollars for donuts.
Okay.
Yeah, that's something that I'd
Okay,
like to.
good. Thank
Sorry.
you for that. John Castleman.
Thank you. On my take, I agree with a lot of what's said. I don't know that we need to. I don't think we should regulate more than Washington State. From what I've seen, I think most of the code is good. When the Planning Commission reviewed Section 17, 400 pages, they said STRs are dedicated to 3, right? And that when they passed it, there was an awareness that it wasn't perfect. But hey, let's get this thing done, and we can go back and revisit it. That's happening. Like Trevor's been advocating for, I think small common sense changes make sense. As far as the process goes, we were looking at this for 2 years. How is it now that now the controversy is happening? Why aren't those conversations happening with STR owners prior? So that's what I'm concerned about. And then as far as changes in the zoning code, I think executing on our plan. Pullman's got a rich, comprehensive plan. Part of that includes mixed-use zoning and more flexibility, and I completely agree with that, and I will advocate for more mixed-use zoning.
Thanks, John. Tony.
All right, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you for the question. A short-term rental is a small business, and we are up here asking Pullman to be more small business friendly, and that we just need Pullman to follow through on that. It's time to say yes. It's time to help small businesses. And as far as any zoning changes, I am 100% all in on the vacancy ordinance. We're not trying to punish people that have buildings, but we are trying to say you cannot hold that vacant and hurt the businesses and the buildings around you. It is a blight, and it's bad for our economy and for the pride that we feel in our town. Whenever you go downtown, all you see are vacant buildings. And so goes downtown, so goes Pullman pride, I think. So, yeah.
And you've talked with Mayor Cooper up in Medical Lake, and this is a hard decision. Vacant buildings, code enforcement is really tough. So again, that's going to require, if the council so chooses that direction, that's a hard decision to make. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, but good for you. Dee Dee, any thoughts? Short-term rentals and then a zoning code change?
Yeah, so I can't think of a whole lot of other cities that are this small that have this much tourism. But right now, we mostly rely on the RV parks and the RV park on campus. And And I think, yeah, a short-term rental support and economy would be considerably healthier. And I feel like people in a short-term rental are going to spend more than people in a or in a RV that has its own barbecue or kitchen. And so I think it's a great idea towards like moving towards a more, I don't know, a friendlier tourism to be around. And then in terms of zoning, I'm also like really pro a vacancy tax or regulation. Yeah, I agree with Tawny that we need to see more businesses downtown.
Good, thank you. County Commissioners, any thoughts on short-term rentals or zoning code? Just got a few issues out there right now.
Just kind of a general statement. Yeah, just less. What are we doing? Less regulation. We want to get people in town. We want their dollars to come revolve around our community. Let's try to help. Let's try to help those dollars come to town and not oppose them. So, and then I think for the zoning, the county issues are a little different, but just in general, we should be flexible with our zoning. I think we often get so caught up in planning that this needs to look like this, that we don't just let things work themselves out. So I think we need to take any and all ideas on how to, enhance economic prosperity and development, and we need to be flexible, and we should be accommodating to some of those, that make sense for our community, and that's getting us to the end goal of what we're all looking for. So, thanks.
Good. Thanks, Cody. Chad?
So I believe that the short-term rentals are a good thing, that they need to be supported. There's plenty of laws out there already on the books. There's noise ordinances, there's parking ordinances, and then some of it comes down to the private owners and the rules that they want to set forth. And I think they can be supported in that. So I don't have a problem with that at all. As far as the zoning that needs to be changed, I'll switch over to the county here. I think the big thing, and Whitman County is really odd because we're a partially planned county, so everything in the county is agriculture unless somebody asks for it to be something different. Having said that, I think that the county does need to take into account all, not just Pullman, but all the small towns and cities, and make sure that the zoning that we're doing is working for their potential growth, and that we're not hindering the future on them.
Good, thank you. And I know we're getting short on time, but I'll ask for maybe an extra minute or two. We did have a question on infrastructure, obviously, and I just don't think we're going to have enough time to talk about it, but there were a couple questions regarding condition of roadways in the city. And especially South Grand Avenue, fix the damn potholes. That's what was mentioned. And again, this idea of throwing out the transportation wish list and shifting capital investment dollars into maintenance was kind of the theme of that question, so we won't really belabor that. The other part of that was around housing too, and this notion of missing middle and workforce housing and how the council might want to address that. So again, you'll get these questions and think about those things for sure. And again, I'll refer back to that EIG report. Many workers, and again, I think this is true here too, that they believe that they lack confidence in their leaders to actually address their economic concerns. So just kind of think about that as well. I want to finish on, and we'll have closing statements here in a minute. This is around civility, decorum, and communication. And again, many of you on your websites talk about, John, courageous conversations, connecting coalitions and community members. Dee Dee, you were endorsed for bringing a much-needed perspective to the council. John Mark, your goal is to benefit all Pullman as opposed to a single political ideology. Cody, you mentioned open dialogue is where change is made. Trevor, data-driven decisions and transparency. Brian, creative problem solving, action, not excuses, etc. So how do you plan to involve the city residents more in that decision making? And what does that sort of that consensus and collegiality look like at the dais in front of the council? And how would you get along? And I'm going to start with you, Tony.
This is great, thank you. I mean, I got in this campaign because I have a role where I'm out in amongst the people every day. And I have conversations with the people who live here and who travel here about their thoughts on Pullman, regulations, business, how they feel about Pullman every day. I am open and accessible to everybody. I mean, communication is why I am here. So that really, I am people fueled, and I'm not giving up my day job. So anytime something happens, I will be there and be accountable to the people of the town behind the bar.
People fueled. I like that. That's very good. John, you talk about courageous conversations. And again, let's try and be brief on this if we can. I know it's an important issue, and again, we see at the national and state level, electeds don't always play well in the sandbox, and we've got to figure that out. So, John.
Yeah, I think part of it is just giving people an open forum, so like literally hosting more forums. I think bringing in experts is important, but I remember talking to, well, I won't go down that story, forget it short, so I'll keep it short. So I think just more physical places to converse, talk, and dialogue. I think what's really important, though, too, to get people out and communicating is sharing what's at stake. What are the pros and cons here? What are the trade-offs? There's no all good or all bad. Getting those facts out on the table. I think the city could do a lot more there. I think some goals, some planning is difficult to access. Trying to find things like the Gateway Project, which was a partnership with Washington State University. It took some digging, and it called Bob Crackett. Hey, where is this thing? Where can I see it? So I think that is important. And then lastly, I'll just say that more communication isn't necessarily better. Clearer communication is.
Good, thank you. Dee Dee, again, talk about bringing a much-needed perspective to council. So, what does that mean?
Oh, wait, do I not get the same question?
No, go ahead. Just talk about how would you work with your council members, that decorum,
Yeah.
civility, your perspective. How does that all work?
I'm a strong proponent of community forums. I know that the city has had a few canceled instead of rescheduled in this year, and that's been quite discouraging. In addition to that, I work with the Mutual Aid Network here and a student organization called SLAP that is doing research on political action about the transportation and accessibility of this city. I don't know. I love talking to people and hearing every perspective I can get. So I feel like I've just been wandering around asking questions and trying to bring those to council.
And Dee Dee, you're a beekeeper, is that right? You work beekeeping?
I was
so
a beekeeper
any
for
sort
2
of
years.
comparison, how would you manage the hive, so to speak?
I don't know. I have an interesting perspective on beekeeping because I like to think of the entire hive as an organism rather than the individuals. I suppose society is the same, though.
Yeah, good. Thank you. John Mark. Talk
Maybe
about
spray
political ideology, sort of
Oh, sorry.
avoiding that single. So go ahead, I interrupted
I'm sorry,
you.
go ahead with the question
No,
again.
go ahead. This is around
Oh, I
civility,
was just going to
decorum.
say maybe spray some smoke into council chambers when they're discussing the short-term rentals. That might work. What was the question?
So
I'm
again,
sorry.
it's around civility, decorum, and communication. As an elected official sitting around the dais, how would you work with other? And again, on your website, you talk about avoiding this single political ideology is a priority for you.
Mainly, I stated that because I wanted to be clear. This is a nonpartisan position. Glenn Johnson, when he was mayor, famously would visit new council members and give them basically not so much a pep talk, but a come to Jesus statement, telling them that this was nonpartisan and regardless of your political leanings or feelings, you are working for everyone. And I wanted to make sure that everyone understood, even though I have run for county commissioner and that was a partisan position, I am going to honor the fact that this is not a partisan position. I went out and I've talked to Democrats, I've talked to Republicans, I've talked to Libertarians, I've talked to almost everybody on this panel at one time or another about most of the subjects we've discussed this morning.
Wow, feels like afternoon already. That's crazy. But I do want to reiterate my commitment to making sure that I am available. I have an open door policy basically to everyone. You'll find my card on your table in front of you. Every one of those cards has all my contact information. You can use a QR code to go to my website, for example. My phone number's on there. Call me any time of the day or night. I might not answer. I might send it to voicemail if it's 2 in the morning, but that's your fault for calling at 2 in the morning. I am open to hearing from anybody, and if anybody has ideas, I'm open to not only hearing those, but sharing them with people who can help bring them to reality if there's something that is feasible and something that will benefit the city as a whole, and to a certain degree, the county as a whole, since as the county commissioner candidates have stated, we are one of the big drivers financially for the county. So yeah, just to be clear, I wanted to make sure that everybody knows I am open to hearing from you, talking with you, and I look forward to doing so.
Good, thank you. Cody, you mentioned this open dialogue where changes is where change is made. What do you mean? And again, how would you interact with your fellow commissioners?
I think you just start talking and you figure out where people are coming from, what the I think most of us are working towards the same thing. How we get there is probably where we differ. So I think it's with fellow commissioners, with interacting from the county level to the city. It's just sitting down and talking with people, and I've talked to most of the table here extensively about an issue or another, and I look forward to doing that in the future. I think whoever gets in from the city, that there'll be an open door, and that can continue. And then with constituents, I have treated, and I'm not in the office, but I've treated talking to everyone that their issue is my issue. And what somebody's big issue is not mine, but that doesn't mean I don't represent it. So I'm just taking that approach across the board. So
Good, thank you. Trevor, you mentioned data-driven decisions and transparency, and I remember an elected official in Idaho that used to say, don't confuse me with the facts, I've made up my mind. So how would this data-driven decision-making,
Yeah, absolutely.
how would that work?
Yeah, so kind of leaning into some stuff I've learned working here at SEL is we have a book that we refer to a lot, World-Class Manufacturing. And in world-class manufacturing, we have something called the small reversible experiment, right? And so being able to experiment and, roll that back if it doesn't work out. If it does, let's measure those results and make action on it. Let's record that and communicate that to the city and to the folks that live here that may be impacted by it. I think it's a net positive. If it's a net positive to Pullman long term, then we should absolutely plant those trees for the next generation to enjoy the shade.
Yeah, good, thank you. Brian, you talk about creative problem solving, actions, not excuses.
Okay.
So how do you get creative with your council members? How do you have those kinds of conversations?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple of different things from kind of like Trevor said, from my experience at SEL that really will play in and add value to the council. I think one of the things at SEL that we do is ask why 5 times. And the idea is to ask continued questions so that you really understand what problem you're trying to solve, so you get to the root of that, and then you solve the actual problem. And I think there's a few things that have come up today. You kind of hinted about the bypass, the short-term rentals, the sidewalks, that we're asking more questions, getting to the root, and then making sure we're solving the right problem is important. The other thing is, in my time at SEL, I've led large groups that have all been service-oriented, whether it's security, whether it's information services. And one of the things that you have a tendency to do in a service organization is inadvertently start to sub-optimize for the support versus for the people that are getting the support. And I think the same is true of a city, that they would have those same types of tendencies. And so one of the things I'm well known for at SEL is making sure that we retain that customer focus. I've mentioned earlier the idea of having that mindset of the small business owner, of the person, the homeowner, the people in Pullman, and I think we need to do that as a city and ask those hard questions.
Asking why 5 times as a grandparent, I have to discourage that sort of thing.
Not ask the same question
from my
5
little Maeve,
times, yeah.
who's almost 3. He's like, why? Like, it's okay. A little different, but I like that thought. And then Chad, you serve on commission now. I mean, what do you find that's working? And I mean, how enjoying that sort of dialogue and how you build consensus and decorum around?
So one of my personal philosophies is that, and no disrespect to anybody in this room, but I'm not that important. The title is the important thing here and the people that are pushing for things. But if something happens to me, somebody else will take my place and things will march on. So my job is to listen to people. In 30 years of shoeing horses, you learn real quick that your attitude doesn't matter because they are way bigger and tougher, so you better get along with them real quick and figure out a way. Listen to them. And for horses, it's body language. For people, it's the same thing. You got to watch body language. You got to listen to them and truly try to understand what they're saying. Ask questions to verify that you guys are actually communicating. Now, we may not always agree on everything, but the important part is that I've got to understand what people are asking and wanting, give them that information, and just be open about everything.
Great, thank you. Again, so we'll finish now with closing comments and try to be brief, obviously. Some of the other questions that were posed had to do with relationships, whether that's between the city and the chamber, WSU, Downtown Pullman Association, Port of Whitman, the city-county relationship, major employers, small businesses, and the idea around the Town Gown Collaborative, whether that's a working concern or not. A question around if you got $1 million, what would you do? What kind of priority would you make of that grant? The chamber-business relationship, what are the kinds of questions you need to ask the chamber as well? There's a question on favorite places. Tell us where your favorite place is, whether that's in the city or the county. And then for our county commissioners, there was a question on renewable energy development, but we're not going to touch that right now. So with that, let's close comments. And Cody, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, well, I'm really glad for this opportunity. I sat down with Pete, and I've been to a luncheon last month, and the direction of where the Pullman Chamber's going, where you guys are trying to lead the city to, it's where it's doing it the right way, and you're a passionate leader, and I think the county, the city needs more of that. And it's been a great turnout for an election this year, and my issues really are that we've been getting our rear end kicked in a lot of ways in this local area, and everybody's looking for something to change and something to give. And I wasn't happy with the current direction of the county, so I put my name in the hat. I think that's why everyone's sitting up here for the city council. And I want to do whatever I can to help Pullman businesses, Whitman County, and no wind farms.
Thanks, Cody. Chad.
Again, I'd like to thank you all for the opportunity to speak here. One of the things that I think that is real special about our county and our city is the safety of it. We've had some fantastic law enforcement, both by the city and the county. They are very understaffed for the number of people they serve, but they do an awesome job of doing that. And I think that is one of the things that we have going for us. The other part that we need to focus on is the consistency and stability of the elected officials. Economics, businesses flourish in stable environments, and we need to remember that and do the best we can to keep things in a stable area to keep businesses growing. And thank you for your time.
Good. Thanks, Chad. Tony.
Oh, yeah. Wonderful. All right. Thank you, everybody. My family has lived in Pullman for 6 generations. I have seen the changes over the last 45 years, and I stepped up because I saw a need for a local small business candidate. right now, there is an energy in the room about Pullman's future, and I want to be in that room helping shape those policies to really help grow Pullman in the right direction. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tawny. Dee Dee.
Yeah, so now that it's been mentioned that I'm a beekeeper, I am extremely passionate about the environment, and that's like why I became a beekeeper and started working in gardening and such anyways. Before that, I was a wildland firefighter. But also, interestingly, I'm a third-generation WSU student. My grandmother went here while there was still the skirt rule, and I don't know, it's been really cool moving out here and getting to experience so much of this city and the people here. And it's honestly like an honor to be in the largest Pullman election to date. Yeah, so thank you.
Thanks, Dee Dee. Brian.
Yeah, so shout out again to the Chamber for hosting this event, and I totally agree with Cody about the direction that the Chamber is headed. I also think that the Downtown Association is doing great things. We've got, as we mentioned it earlier, a beautiful new downtown. Now we got to figure out a way to fill it up. I do think I bring a unique experience and mindset to council. I think optimizing how we think about businesses and homeowners first, and I'm excited to help the city of Pullman.
Thanks, Brian. John.
All right. Yes, thank you to the Chamber. I agree. I love the direction, especially the focus on businesses, focus on customers first, and doing everything we can to serve the people that we're trying to serve. As a candidate, I've got governance experience. I've not just served on a number of boards, but chaired them. So I have experience in building coalitions. That's what I do for my professional work as well. I work here at Schweitzer Engineering. I manage the K-12 outreach program and work with regional STEM networks and groups, and that's just part of who I am. I'll cut then and just say, yeah, there's a lot of things that are out of Pullman's control. That's why I think we need to focus on ourselves in the sense of building a strong core. The center must hold. So I think we need to invest in our people. We need to invest in social infrastructure, whether that's spaces, events, volunteer networks, associations. That's where we need to pull our strength from so we can weather these hard times and look forward to a stronger future. Thank you.
Thanks, John. John Mark.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank all the candidates that are up here. And, it has been an honor sitting here with you guys and exchanging ideas and talking. You may have missed the robust conversation we were having about various issues facing us both in the city and the county before everybody arrived, but it was an interesting conversation. I'd also like to thank the Chamber and, of course, SEL. SEL has been a huge benefit to the city of Pullman. Very generous, taking over the aquatic center. Ed and Beatrice were very helpful during COVID, feeding people, buying families dinners. It was amazing. Having that kind of connection is great between the community and the business, and if we can improve that, that would be great. I know Brian loves that idea. I've heard talk about including WSU. They're having their budget issues, so I doubt they'd really help us out for free, which that might be a concern. But if we can get them on board to join in the city of Pullman and help out, that would be great as well. So thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, John Mark. And final words, Trevor.
Thank you. Yeah, I think we're all running really because we care about Pullman or Whitman County, right? And we're all focused on making this place that's our home better. We want to see Pullman be strong, grow, and thrive. I think transparency is really important. It's good government and our town thriving. We need leadership that listens and that takes input from everybody. I want to also thank Pullman Chamber for organizing, SEL for hosting, and Genuine Home Inspections for sponsoring. I have handouts on these tables in the front. feel free to grab one. My email is on there, my phone number, my website. So call, text, leave a voicemail if I don't answer. But I'd be honored to earn your support. Thank you.
Well, thanks. Let's give all of our candidates a round of applause. Well done. We're a little behind, but that's okay. Again, Mackenzie, Christina, Jeff, and Schweitzer staff, wonderful to have this venue. I love this venue. Anyway, our chamber staff, thanks for putting this on. Again, we'll continue to get better. And just to remind you, this was videoed, and so it will be up here shortly on the chamber website. And again, share that out with your family, friends, and community members. So with that, again, thank you for your commitment and willingness to serve. It's wonderful and it's fun. I enjoyed my time as a county commissioner, and I'm sure all of you will as well, whether it's city or county. So with that, thank you for coming this morning, and we will see you.